Namaskar, very warm welcome to all our viewers and learners in this live phone-in session of CIET NCERT. I'm Renu Bhatt and you are with us live on eVidya channel number 12 and on our NCERT official YouTube channel. Dear learners and viewers, this is our special session of teaching learning interventions for inclusive classroom, where we try to enhance our knowledge towards inclusive classroom setups. And the topic that we are going to discuss today in this specific session is a story, that is deep water. And whenever we heard this word, it creates thrill in most of us, but this thrill could be a fear for someone else as well. And for more detail, we have our expert with us, but let me tell you that this topic is for 12th standard of English student, and as you can see, I am accompanied by our sign language interpreter. You are Miss Dipali. Very warm welcome, Dipali. And dear learners and viewers, we have our expert with us. Let's meet him. You are Mr. Shravdat Anand. You are assistant professor from Manav Rachna University. You are assistant professor in special education. Very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
And dear learners and viewers, it's time for you to participate in this live phone-in session. With all your queries and doubts, you can call us on our telephone number, that is 8800440559. Either you can drop a mail at our email address, that is dth.class12@ciet.nic.in. And in case you have joined us through our live streaming, then you have to go to the live chat box and you have to drop your comment out there. Our expert will be happy to answer all your queries and doubts. If you want to share your experience with us, feel free to share your experience, dear learners and viewers. And so by the time our learners joined us, let's begin this session. And the topic that is we are going to discuss today is a story. That is deep water.
Yes.
And this title itself a very interesting title, sir. What
yes,
exactly
so
this is?
Before we begin this chapter, so Renu, can you tell me, what do you fear? What are you scared of?
I'm scared of insects.
Okay.
Especially reptiles.
Okay. So basically this chapter also deals with one of this aspect only, that is the fear that the writer has.
So sir, do you have fear also?
Yes, I have some fears.
Okay.
So basically this chapter also deals with one of that kind of fear which the writer tells us about, which he has from water. So how he overcomes his fear, how he comes to know that he has a fear, and how he decides that he has to fight it.
Right.
This is what the chapter is about.
Okay, fine.
So when we move on, so to give an introduction of the chapter to the students, what we can do is, like I have inserted a sound, we can ask the students to recognize the sound. So what will happen is, when the sound is played, the students will recognize and the teacher can ask them to recognize the sound. And when the students recognize the sound, that is, they try to interpret and say that it is water or anything else, then what the teacher can do is, he or she can start the lesson, that today we are going to start a lesson which is named deep water.
So, this is the way that you are saying we can, I mean teachers can explain. How you can explain this topic or this context to the class, especially inclusive classroom?
See, inclusive classroom has students with diversities. That is, they are learners with different styles. So keeping that in mind, giving their learning style some respect, what we can do is, we can use different ways, such as we can use images, we can use flashcards, such as I have used in this, in slide you can see, I have used 3 types of images of water. So we are not simply telling the students to recognize water.
Right.
What we are doing is, we are giving them water in different shapes. Firstly, there is a sea. In the second one, water is flowing out of the tap. Second, the water is being filled in the glass. So there is water, but the context is different. So the students will recognize, and once they are recognizing it, what will happen is that their abstract thinking will also grow.
Right.
So moving on, the chapter which is deep water, it is an extract. Extract means that it is taken from the main story book, and it is taken in the textbook. So it is an extract from the book Men and Mountains by William Douglas. William Douglas is the writer. over here the author tells us about how he overcomes the deep-rooted fear of water. As I told in the beginning also, that this fear was in him from the very beginning.
But he was not aware.
He was not aware of it till one day when he visited. We visited a beach with his father, and what happened at that day was that the water swept him, and then he realized how fearful he was from water.
Okay.
That day he realized that he has such something which he was very small, so he was not able to give words to that feeling. But as he grew old, he realized that he fears water. He has a phobia for water. So that is what the writer is trying to tell us about this story, that he had a fear, but how he overcame the fear is what this chapter talks about.
Okay.
Moving on, when we are talking about how the writer comes to know about his fear of water, there are two instances. First was, as I told, when he visited the beach with his father. Second was when the author was 11 years old. He was in his school near a swimming pool. So what happened was that there was a bully around in that area. So he came up to the writer, and before the writer could do anything or realize something, he pushed the writer into the water. And once the writer was into the water, what happened was that he faced a lot of scary experiences. But he worked very hard, realizing those experiences at that time of drowning, that how he can overcome it. And that is where we learn that there were different measures and about the willpower of the writer, which ultimately helped him to overcome his fear.
Right. So having a fear is different, and knowing the fear is also different,
Exactly.
right? Somewhere you may not be accompanied or acquaintance with that fear. So here I just wanted to ask you one question. There is a term in the story that is bruiser. So what exactly that is, sir?
Bruiser means that bruiser is a term which is used for bully.
Okay.
Bruiser means bully. That is why I have in the PPT also I have used a simpler term, but the chapter talks about the term bruiser. So bruiser is a person who tries to overpower by using his build.
So they are those persons who bully
others. That is why when we talk about this chapter also, in the second instance, when the author was 11 years old, he was thrown into the water swimming pool by a bully or a bruiser.
Okay.
So now moving on, in the first paragraph, what the writer is talking about, it is the overcoming of the fear, how he overcame his fear. That is when I told in the beginning also, the writer first encounter with water was when he was 4 years old, when he went to the beach with his father. That was his very first encounter with water, when he realized that something was wrong. Something happened which made him terrorized. He was terrorized by just seeing water. Now, next, why was he terrified? Because, and the second incident which I also told you earlier, when he was 11 years old, when he was thrown into the water, that incident escalated the fear of water in the author. Why? Because earlier he knew that there is some fear of water, but when he was thrown into the water, when he was grasping for his life, saving his life, then he realized that there is something, and he does not like water. There he realized that he does not like water and he should stay away from water.
Okay.
Now, when there is finally what happens is, when he is 11 or 12 years old, he is at a swimming pool in Yakima, trying to learn swimming. In the chapter also we can see that there is a map of Yakima river, which is showing that how the river was at that time, because it is the chapter is a very old writing, so a lot of things have changed. That is why the map is an old map. So when one fine day in the chapter, a bully comes in and he decides that he wants to have fun with the writer. He saw that the writer was just was affrighted with water. the writer was wrecking around the water. So some thought came inside the bully's mind, and he came behind the author, and all of a sudden he pushed the author inside the water. The author was so desperate that he could not even hold on to something. He was so surprised by the push.
Right.
And that is what, at that point, the author realized that he might even lose his life. He was so scared of water.
Right. So, here I just wanted to ask you, as you just explained that there is a map of Yakima, right? It's the old map. So, how you can explain river map to all our viewers, especially children with special needs?
Yes, what we can do is, we can use a map in a tactile way.
Okay.
That is, we can put a map on a page where we have engravings, so that children who are visually impaired, they can touch the figure of the map, and they can feel it that yes, the teacher is talking about the map. So there we can teach the students about maps.
Okay, and so there were some phrases as well, like aping them and bob to surface like a cork. If we look at the story itself, then how can you explain all those expressions and phrases to students?
Yes, see the term bob like, ma'am, can you repeat the term?
Yes, sir. Bob to surface like a cork.
Bob to surface like the cork. It means that when the bully pushed the writer inside the water,
okay,
he went inside the water like when we throw a pen inside.
Okay.
What happens is that it goes down, but due to the weight it comes up.
Right.
That is what happened with the writer also. He was thrown into the water, but due to gravity he came outside the water. That is what this term means. So what we can do is, in a classroom, the teacher can demonstrate by taking a glass of water, and the teacher can take a heavy stone or anything, and he or she can throw it into the water.
Right.
And through the experiment, what we will see is that it will come up.
So, but thrown maybe won't come up because of the gravity?
So, we have to see that we have to take an object which comes up. That is, we can take a cap of a pen. It will touch down, or we can take a cork. It will touch down and come up. So, after that, the teacher can explain the students that as the object came up, this is what the term means. By demonstration, the students will learn better.
Right, sir.
So, moving on, as I told that the bully pushed the author inside the swimming pool. So, now what happened was that when he was inside the water, he felt paralyzed because he was so scared that he felt that his heart was not moving. It was so rapidly moving that he could not feel anything. Then what happened was that his lower body he felt that his body was paralyzed. And all of a sudden, there was so much panic, there was so much scare, he was so scared that at one point he felt that he will die.
Okay.
That there will be no one who will save him. And there he even made up his mind that he will die today. An 11-year-old boy, he thought that he will die in the water because he was so scared of water that he thought that no one can save him now. And that fear had haunted him for so many years that once he was inside the water, only thought that came inside his mind was of death. That was the level of terror that water had in him. However, but as soon as the writer was inside the water, he started to throw his hands, he started to try and save himself, but it was all in vain because the author did not know how to swim. As he did not know how to swim, he was sinking in. Then by repeated efforts, repeatedly he was trying to throw his arms, try to move out of the water, but he became tired. And as soon as he became tired, what happened was he started drowning. And his eyes also closed. So he drowned. And once he drowned, what happened was that he left all hope. And when he wake up, he was lying on the side of the swimming pool. That means that someone saved him. There might be his coach or someone saved him. But once he was saved also, he did not realize, once we are saved from something, our fear, it declines. But in this case, the author's fear even escalated.
Okay.
He realized that water is something that he has to stay away from now onwards.
Okay.
So after that incident, he decided that he will change the school also. Why? Because this school had swimming pool. So he decided to change his school also. Now and also, yes ma'am.
Yes sir, sorry I am interrupting you.
No
As
problem.
our author Douglas has a fear of water, right? So he must be having some strategies to overcome this fear.
Yes.
What strategies he follows, sir?
Yes, the strategies are the main part of this chapter, that how he overcame his fear. So the first strategy that the author adopted was that he realized, he accepted, yes, that there is a fear, I am scared of water and I have to overcome it. So that was the first step, first strategy that the writer adopted. Now moving on, when we talk about the strategies, we see that to overcome his fear of water, he started visiting marine lakes, he started visiting swimming pools, different types of seas where there are water, there is water, so that he can see water, because he thought that if he sees water, the fear might come down. But he was not able to enjoy the sight of water, because every time he used to remember that fear, he used to remember that feeling of drowning. So what happened was, thus one day, by getting tired of all this, he decided now that he has to overcome this fear. Now this was when the second strategy came in effect.
Okay.
He decided that now he will hire a swimming coach, and he hired a swimming instructor so that he can overcome his fear of water. That was the second major step that the author adopted in order to overcome his fear. And now what happened was that the instructor came in, and the instructor started to teach him different types of tips and techniques to overcome his fear. And it was going to be an easy process. The writer also realized that, and it took a lot of time, at least around 3 to 4 months it took the writer to get out of the fear and learn swimming. Now moving on, when we talk about strategies, so once once the instructor was hired, what we see is that the instructor firstly taught him how to move his legs inside the water. This was the third strategy, that the instructor taught the writer about moving his body parts inside the water. Firstly, the instructor taught him how to kick his legs inside the water, and while doing that, the instructor had tied the writer's waist with a thread, so that the writer could not drown, because the writer had already told the instructor about his fear of water. So what the writer did, this instructor did, was that he tied a rope to the waist of the instructor, and one end was tied to the waist of the writer. So what happened was, as soon as the instructor left the writer independently in the water, the writer did not drown, and that gave the writer a lot of confidence. And now when the instructor taught the writer about moving his hands and and kicking inside the water, the writer started to feeling a little more confident. But that was not it. Once the instructor left the writer for a certain minute of time, so that he sees that if the writer is able to swim independently, the writer again started drowning. And that time he realized that this is not the way, and it will take a lot of time for him to practice it and get it over him. And that is where he decided that now he will practice even more, and he will try to even practice in not only in swimming pools but in different seas and other marine lakes also. So there was a fourth strategy, where the author decided that now that he has learned the basic steps and the fear is depleting slowly, so now in order to totally go to defeat the fear, what the author decided was that now he will take on the next big step, that is, he will swim in rivers, he will try to swim in lakes. That was the last and the fourth biggest step that the author took.
Okay, so those were the strategies. Okay, fine sir. So my question to you is, how did the Douglas, our author, make sure that he conquered the old terror?
Yes, like these 4 strategies he followed. Apart from that, what he did was that he repeatedly kept telling himself that yes, he can overcome the fear.
Right.
Because he knew that nobody will come to help him except himself. So that was the only thing that gave him confidence and kept him from giving up. That he gave himself confidence that yes, he can do it, he can overcome the fear. That was the major thing that Douglas did.
Okay. So does all our viewers and learners can also do the same?
Yes, because whenever we are facing fears in our life, like this, the major fear that student faces is examination. They also fear that yes, I will not able to do this subject. But what they should remember is, yes, they should motivate themselves by saying, I will be able to do it. If I practice, I will be able to overcome this fear, because as Douglas has taught us, no fear is bigger than our determination.
Right.
That is what the students can also inculcate in their lives.
So in order to achieve or overcome your fear, you have to self-motivate yourself.
Exactly.
All the students.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
So what Douglas has told us about the story is that even if we have a fear which is very bigger than us, what we can do is we can mock the fear. The fear is never too big from us, and the fear will never be able to overpower us if we have something ready at every stage. Like Douglas had strategized everything for every stage. He knew that it will not be an easy step, and it will not be an easy journey for him. But still, he did not give up, and that is what the writer is trying to tell us, that even if we are facing with a lot of difficulties in our life, we should never give up, because hope is the only thing that will take us forward. That is what Douglas is also saying, that he kept hope. He had hope that he will overcome that fear. He has even used a term in the story that he mocked Mr. Fear. So he has even given us shape to his fear. He's designated a life to his fear, and he calls him as Mr. Fear. And in order to defeat him, what term throughout the chapter, one term that he uses is that I am mocking Mr. Fear again and again, that you cannot come and defeat me again. I have successfully defeated you. So that is what in this whole book Douglas is talking about. This chapter is just an excerpt. The whole book talks about how we can overcome our fear, how we will be able to deal with different difficult situations in our life. That is what our writer is also telling, and what in the end happens is that by following all the strategies, by motivating himself and not giving up, the writer ultimately conquers his fear. And not only he conquers by just learning swimming, he becomes a national level swimmer.
Okay.
He became a national level swimmer. He crossed the river also. He became a cross country swimmer also. He swam across the currents also. So that is what the chapter is telling us about, that if we do not give up, there is nothing that we can achieve. And when we talk about students, the major fear which they face is about examination. That during examination, I will not be able to do this. This subject is very tough for me.
And the peer pressure.
Peer pressure also. So what the writer is trying to tell us, that we should be confident that yes, the subject might be difficult, but it is not that difficult that if we practice, and one thing we should keep in our mind is that we have support. Douglas did not have any support, but still he conquered his fear. But students should remember that they have support, they have their parents, they have their teachers, they have their peers, they have their friends, and by taking their help, by keeping them in consideration, they will be able to overcome their fear of examination.
So our child should learn how to share their fear as well.
Exactly. This is what was wrong was Douglas also, that he was not able to share his fear. It might be he might be scared that people will make fun of him.
Exactly.
So that is what the story also tells us about, is that we should be aware and there should be no shame in sharing our feelings. If we are scared about something, we should be able to talk about it. And when we are able to talk about it, we will feel light. We will have more strategies to deal with that fear.
Right. So those were the points and strategies, and dear learners and viewers, never lose hope is the moral of this particular story. And this is our time when we have to move towards our keyword section, and as usual we have 3 keywords for this session. Our first keyword is stirred, our second keyword is summoned, and the third keyword is seized. So you must be having homework for our
Yes.
learners. Please share, sir.
Yes. So first of all, the homework, which is it is a general question which is given in the textbook for students. It is a general question. Write a short letter to someone you know about having learned to do something new. This is a very general question that they have to write an informal letter. But how we can modify this question only? Because students face difficulty while writing letters. So what we can do is, in the homework modification, it is a format. We can just give them a format, and we can give spaces in between. Like in the first, there will be address of the sender. The student can write the address of any student that he is feeling like, any friend of him. Then will be date, then salutation, that is dear, and your new school is good. Whatever the on dash on overcoming your fear. I remember you were afraid of whatever, for example, mathematics, but now you have, after work with your hard work, you have achieved. With your hard work, you have achieved your success.
Our email address, that is dth.class12@cit.nic.in. And so still we have 1 more minute left in this session. Would you like to add something? Say
Yes.
something to all our viewers.
See, this chapter does not only talks about academics or any. It gives us a life lesson.
Right.
That we should never give up, because giving up is never an option. Because if Douglas had given up, he would have died. He realized that he has a fear. We should also realize that we have a fear in our life, and we should try to overcome it. We should try to strategize ourselves how to overcome that fear, not to give in that fear and not to sit idle that like I am scared of this thing, nothing can be done. Because there are empty number of examples in real life that how they overcame their fear. We should take motivation from those people. Students should take motivation from those people and realize that yes, everything can be overcome.
Right.
Every difficulty can be conquered. So that is what I would like to tell the students, that they should feel positive in every situation. They should not feel negative. They should not think negative. Feel positive, think positive.
So that was the lesson's outcome, and it's time for me to wrap up this session. But before that, let me thank our expert, Mr. Anand. Thank you so very much, sir, for being with us.
Thank you so much,
and
ma'am.
for your informative and this information and this informative story